I had my screen paused at 57, so that counts.
Okay, I'll call to, pardon me, I'll call to order the May 5th, 2025 regular meeting of the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors. Ms. Donahue is traveling, but I believe.
Yes, she is joining us remotely for personal reasons from the middle of the Pacific.
Yep. We won't be able to pin down a specific location, but.
Ever changing.
Yeah, cruisemapper.com, we can figure it out. But thank you, Debbie, for your earnestness in dialing in from vacation. We appreciate it. Yeah, that's true. Okay, first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll just pause for a brief moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. One thing I would just like to do before we begin is just acknowledge, especially during budget season, pardon me, all the hard work of our county administration staff who don't get recognized or named enough. So Mr. Curry, our county administrator, everyone knows. Miss Jewell, who I so ridiculously overlooked last time we were talking through the budget. Crystal Davis, who's our administrative assistant in the administrator's office, Art Goff, our county attorney, and Kayla Garcia, who heads our HR and personnel shop, who is holding down the fort while we're all here. So many thanks to all of them. It's a great team, and also gratitude to all of our constitutional officers, in particular Debbie, Nick, and Mary Graham, our revenue commissioner, who are an integral part of our budget and our taxation policies here in Rappahannock County. So thank you all. I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second for Mr. Carney's motion?
I'll second with just a question if there's any addendum items. I don't see any.
No.
Any more discussion?
Well, is there anything to discuss about the situation in Chester Gap, which was breaking news over the weekend, or will we take that up during the budget discussion this evening?
Yeah, I don't believe there's anything to discuss at this point, but I think over the next couple of meetings there might be.
Okay.
Yeah, and I definitely have questions on that front and think it might be addressed, at least from my perspective, during any ongoing budget discussions.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll start off.
Ms. Donahue, are you able to vote during this meeting?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, aye.
Okay, wow, thank you. Crystal clear. Great. We're going to hear now, as we do most months, from the school superintendent, Shannon Grimsley. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. Happy May from your RCPS family. Spring has fully blossomed at our schools, bringing with it numerous achievements and activities that keep students and educators buzzing like busy bees throughout the season every day. I'm excited to share with you the many wonderful happenings from April since the last we met. April proved to be a very eventful month for our career and technical education programs. During our regular board meeting, Ms. Jody Place, our RCHS Assistant Principal / CTE Coordinator, provided an update on the 25-26 CTE local plan and presented our new CTE specific program of studies. She highlighted fresh opportunities being made available to students through community partnerships and program expansions. I'm pleased to report that RCHS currently offers 44 different career and tech ed courses, in addition to the Future Educators Academy through Laurel Ridge Community College and the Trades Academy. A recent RCHS student survey revealed that the most requested courses for the upcoming year include welding, small animal care, introduction to culinary, veterinary science, and introduction to health and medical sciences. This month's Trade of the Month presentation featured Mr. Corey Pitts, a general contractor with Holder Construction, who shared his personal journey and inspired students by discussing the numerous benefits of pursuing careers in the trades. His insights were especially valuable as he works closely with professionals from various trades on a daily basis. Mr. Pitts also represented Holder Construction at our RCHS Career Expo, which took place on April 24th, which hosted 23 businesses offering a variety of jobs and career opportunities for our juniors and seniors. And I had the opportunity to talk to some of those folks that were at the career fair, and they were so unanimously complimentary of our students and just the way that they presented themselves and shook hands, asked good questions, made great eye contact, and unanimously were very, very impressed with our kids. In that vein, our CES students participated in an exploration career fair on April 10th, where 7th graders displayed poster boards with information about their chosen careers, and students in grades K through 6 had opportunities to attend the fair and complete grade level specific career passports as they toured the booths. 7th graders had to explore a career of interest, including the prerequisite education needed, the salary range, the types of careers available in the labor market, and pros and cons of pursuing that career. Students were extremely knowledgeable about their research career cluster and will have a great start in developing their academic and career plans in the 8th grade next year, which is part of this activity. And they were great range too. I just spoke to a 12-year-old girl who wanted to be a neurosurgeon and explored that that career path, and then another female student really involved in military and firefighting and really looked at those aspects. And we also had a full-size John Deere tractor parked outside the school for one of our students pursuing farming. It was a really great event. Speaking of next steps, April 17th was a day of celebration at our CHS as 19 seniors were honored during our annual scholarship ceremony. These outstanding students were awarded scholarships from more than 30 generous organizations and donors, with the total amount awarded reaching an impressive $117,529. Additional scholarships will be awarded in the coming weeks, with the final total to be announced during graduation at the end of May. On April 25th, the day before prom, our CHS juniors and seniors witnessed a powerful and emotional car crash simulation and rescue scenario. Organized by Cat Waters in collaboration with the Rappahannock County Fire and Rescue and the Sheriff's Office, The Aftermath, a lifelike post-prom accident scene to emphasize the dangers of drunk driving. Multiple volunteer fire and rescue agencies participated, making this a realistic and eye-opening experience for our students, but also a full-scale training exercise for all of those agencies. The simulation was followed by a heart-wrenching true story of the tragic loss of 5 young lives in a drunk driving-related accident. One of those 5 lives lost belonged to the older sister of Janie Jenkins of the Rappahannock County Sheriff's Office. The simulation, followed by the story from Janie, truly impacted the students, and there was hardly a dry eye in the auditorium. The following day, April 26th, Rappahannock County High School students gathered at High Meadow Manor in Flint Hill for their junior-senior prom. The fairy tale-themed event, Once Upon a Time, was made possible by the incredible support and generosity from Mr. Matt Neiswenger of High Meadow Manor and Patrick O'Connell of the Inn at Little Washington. The incredible views, decadent food, along with royal treatment, including driving up the royal prom court in a horse-drawn carriage. I didn't know where I was. I was like, what is going on? It's so amazing. Creative memories our students will cherish forever. On April 30th, our CES students enjoyed an engaging Earth Day assembly featuring an impressive 19-foot-tall inflatable Earth dome, which offered students a large-scale view of our planet's continents, geographical features. Several grade levels even had the opportunity to get inside of that dome for a unique 360-degree experience. This educational program was made possible by the generosity of the Rappahannock League for Environmental Protection, and we extend our heartfelt thanks for their support. Looking ahead, this week we start SOL testing, where students get to show what they know. We feel confident that our students will make us proud, as the progress they have made this year points toward high achievement. Last year, our CPS was rated based on an old accreditation system as achieving a level 1, the highest possible level of achievement in every category at the elementary school, and all level 1 and level 2 at the high school. This year, the accreditation system is changing, and it's based on Governor Youngkin's expectations for increased transparency on mastery, growth, and readiness. On this scale, based on the same achievement levels, our CPS is rated on the high end of on-track rating, only 2 points shy of being a distinguished school. In fact, our students have made such great progress and achievement, especially in literacy and math, that we are being considered by the state for the All-In Virginia Division of Distinction Award, an award presented by VDOE and the governor for excellence in implementing the All-In Virginia Tutoring and Intervention Plan with measurable positive outcomes for students in attendance, literacy, math, and overall learning loss recovery. We will know this summer whether or not we are among the awardees. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, beginning with various activities planned at both schools. On May 8th at 6:30 p.m., we do invite you to join us for a fantastic evening of music featuring our remarkable student musicians from our CES and our CHS at the Spring Band Concert, right before I know you have to head to the other school campus for a very important hearing. Of course, all Board of Supervisors members are invited to attend our graduation ceremony each year, which will take place on May 30th at 7 p.m. in the high school gym. We hope that you will join us for what you have helped to do. Graduate yet another cohort of Rappahannock's next generation of amazing young citizens. As always, we extend our heartfelt gratitude for your continued support and advocacy for the youth and families of Rappahannock County. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Dr. Grimsley. Ms. Comer, do you have any questions or comments for the superintendent?
I have no questions. I do have comments. You mentioned the Trades Academy. Something that you might not know, the Trades Academy students, which Rappahannock students participate in, they all went through an interview process last Thursday. 5 of the 20 students were Rappahannock, and I can tell you that the 2 most sought after future employees were both Rappahannock County students. So I lived it, I saw it, I talked to the employers. And then also, I want to jump behind everyone else and thank those at High Meadow Manor and the Inn for an incredible experience for the kids. My son had a great time. And the next day I did extend my gratitude to Mr. Neiswinger, and he replied to me that he had a wonderful time and that the kids were amazing. So I know that I bit my nails for 2 weeks, making sure I thought someone's going to have a chat with these kids, right? They are in someone's home. And someone did. So hats off to Miss Jenkins, to Angie Jenkins. I know that a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from her went into the planning of that. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for making sure they behaved.
I didn't have to do much. They were so great. They really knew they were in someone else's place, and they were so respectful of everything.
He said as much.
Yes.
Direct quote was, they were amazing. So.
Great. Ms. Smith?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Carney?
No, thank you.
I have just 3 things, 2 of which are general and 1 is specific and related to this year's budget.
Okay.
My first comment is, I think as we're about to enter a new fiscal year, I think it would benefit you, it would benefit us, it would benefit Rappahannock County taxpayers, particularly during this ongoing discussion about how much funding for the school is enough, for you to include in your monthly updates, to carve out some time, a couple of minutes, to give us ongoing fiscal updates, to speak to questions of school spending, school staffing, potential cost reductions over the year, potential areas where you might see a need for increased spending, so that cumulatively over the course of a fiscal year, we'll say 8 months into a fiscal year, we hit the next budget cycle, and by then hopefully we'll have accumulated a fair amount of information from your monthly updates that we can hopefully use to cut to the chase on what might be driving requests to us for increased funding for the school. So I love your updates and they're spirited, and I would just say that either you or Ms. Witt, I think would provide a benefit to everyone in our community if you circle back always to questions of fiscal responsibility, spending, and any anticipated needs for increased spending in the schools, whatever that might be, capital, personnel, or otherwise. So that's just a general comment. So, and we'll happily listen to you for as long as you need to bring us up to speed on those fronts. The second thing I would like to hear about going forward and on on a regular basis when it makes sense, and especially during the spring of each year. I would like to hear from the school system, in addition to updates on the trades and students' plans for going into the trades. Obviously, every graduating class has some students who attend either a community college or a four-year college leaving school. So I think it would be great if we could hear along the way, whenever appropriate, updates on where students might be planning to go to a community college or a four-year college following graduation. My third comment is very specific, and it's not something that I want you to address now, but to think about in advance of any further discussions we have as we wrap up the budget. In reviewing the Virginia Public Access Project data on per pupil instructional spending in the state, it appears that Rappahannock County, at least based on, I think it was maybe 2023 data, so it's a little bit out of date, but Rappahannock County ranked number 11 among all localities in the Commonwealth in terms of per pupil instruction-related spending. And I try to get behind what that number represents, and I assume that there's some additional per pupil overhead costs that are not, at least by VPAP's calculation, attributable to instruction. But I guess my question to you to think about is, if we are currently ranking 11th in the state among all localities in terms of instruction-related per pupil spending, and yet we rank quite low among our neighboring localities in terms of the salaries that we're paying to our teachers, I'd like to hear your ideas and your analysis of how we might reconcile the two. Because I think it's not a bad thing to rank high in this regard. I would rather we be toward the top than at the bottom, for sure. It shows a significant investment in public education. But at least in my mind, it leaves a question. Instruction-related spending, ultimately, and Mr. Carney is quick to point this out, is perhaps 85% tied to salaries. And so I think that if we are going to continue to invest at this level in excellent instruction, I want to make sure that we find a way to leverage all the public funds, all of our taxpayers' money going in the school system to recruit and retain the best instructors possible. So in light of that VPAP number, I would just like you to, maybe in the days or weeks ahead, just think about and maybe respond back with some thoughts about what that number represents and to what extent we can bring our salaries of our teachers up while keeping everything else in check financially.
Okay,
So that's it. Thanks, as always, for your presentation.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, I saw, let's see here, I saw Mr. Nesbitt sitting downstairs, and I knew today was not court day, so he was here for another reason. It was to speak to us. So I'm glad you're not in trouble, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope I'm not in trouble.
No,
Not here, you're not.
we need you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Whitson and board members for having me here today. Let's see, we got through winter this year. We had a couple of pretty bad events, but we got through them. We're now transitioning into spring and summer activities. Our mowing operations will be cranking up. Our gravel road maintenance is continuing. We had some freeze-thaw issues with asphalt pavement, so we're patching those. Sign maintenance, and we'll be refreshing our markings on some of our higher volume roads in the next several months. We are in the process. We've been working with Mr. Curry on the secondary six-year plan update. I think we're going to have some action today on the resolution on that. As far as I know, no new routes are going to be added this year, and no public hearing this year, correct? Okay.
That's the plan. We'll see.
We recently completed the hard surfacing of Phase 2 of Kaiser Run Road, which was basically constructed last year. So it is now officially a hard surface road, and then this summer we'll be working on Horton Hollow Road, a segment of that. We'll build it up to, we won't surface treat it until next spring. We like to build them in the year before and then let them sit over the winter time and then hard surface them the next year. We are preparing for the paving program this summer. There are almost 9 miles of surface treatment. We don't have any plant mix this year, but we do plan the surface treatment sections of Harris Hollow Road and Good Brown Hollow Road. So those will be done. I don't have a schedule on those yet, but those will be done this summer. I think recently, and last year we met with the county representatives as well as Shenandoah National Park on issues up at the entrance during fall season. And I have not heard any updates. I know there's been some turnover, I think, or some issues with the park system with Washington issues, so I'm not sure what's going on with them, but we'll hopefully come up with a good game plan for next fall. Let's see, and also no updates on additional intersections from the wrong way signage on Route 211 either. I double checked with the traffic engineer this past week, and apparently he was off on vacation this past week, so I didn't really get an update from him, but I will follow up with him.
So just to clarify, VDOT upgraded signage at I think 5 intersections between Massey's Corner and the county line in Amosville. Public Safety Committee suggested that Colvin was an important intersection in Culpeper, and they were going to look at that and maybe a couple others. Seven Ponds, a couple others in Rappahannock County that didn't get touched the first time.
All right, so we'll continue to work that, and hopefully, I'd like to see them all done. I think it makes sense. And also here in the town of Washington, with the law passed last year, it allows localities to lower their speed limit to 15, as low as 15 miles per hour for roads that are already posted at 25. The town of Washington took that law, and they did apply for a permit. We issued them a permit, and they're in the process of installing the signs. I haven't seen whether they've been installed yet or not, but you should see some 20-mile-an-hour speed limit signs, so be careful if you're riding through the town. Also, a law was passed last year to allow us to build to expend gravel road funds that we use currently for rural rustic projects without hard surfacing them. We don't have formal guidance yet, but Fauquier County, we had a couple of roads that they didn't want hard surface that were already in the plan for rural rustic, and they just asked us not to put their surface course on them, to build them up to that level. So we felt like that was probably close enough to the guidance that we can do. So we're going to be doing that in Fauquier County. Also our VDOT's annual 6-year improvement plan, which is the total statewide plan for all the major projects around the state. We have a public hearing Wednesday of this week at our Culpeper District Auditorium from 4 to 6, where basically the public has ability to address the CTV members that are there, the commissioner or secretary, on any transportation issues that they may want to bring to their attention. So that is this Wednesday at 4 o'clock in Culpeper. And that's all I have for right now. If be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Comer, do you have anything for Mr. Nesbitt?
No, not today.
Ms. Smith?
No, thank you for the excellent update, Mark, and I for one look forward to hearing the guidance as it continues to evolve as to how we can improve our rural roads without hard servicing them. I think that's a great option for our county and will really help in a lot of areas. And it's really great to hear about Kaiser Run Road, thinking back to when we put that on the plan and how appreciative folks are. Thank you.
Thank you for the update, Ms. Nesbitt. I do have a quick question about Horton Hollow. I know the folks are going to be thrilled. So do you know that you're going to do a portion of it this year?
Yes, it's a relatively small section, picking up from where the pavement ends on the Rock Mill end.
On the Rock Mill side.
Going out.
And then you said you'll be doing...
Hold on. Other side.
Is the other
So
side?
the Lizzie Mills side heading towards the river. to where it gets too narrow.
Okay,
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
yep.
And then it'll be work and then hard surfacing?
Yes, yeah, we'll get it up. We'll do everything but hard surface it, because we find that if we let it sit for several months, there are any weak areas or any issues that we have, we can come back, repair,
I gotcha.
and then hard surface it.
Will it be hard surface this year or next year?
It'll be next spring.
Next spring?
Yes.
I gotcha. Okay, so the work, okay. Great, thank you.
Great. And my only questions, kind of the same question on two fronts. Number one, in terms of ongoing battle to maintain existing gravel roads, if you could just remind me of what your process is for grading existing gravel roads, whether it's a systematic circling around the county and hitting them in succession, or if these are sort of one-offs that require us to intervene. What, if any, plan do
There
you
is a-
operate from?
Our area superintendent does have, for routine grading, does have a rotation.
Okay.
But, as weather conditions hit, some areas hit worse than others, sometimes we have to make adjustments to that schedule to take care of spot areas, and plus we try to be responsive to someone. If one deteriorates a little quicker than others, we try to be responsive and take care of them as they come up. But generally, we'd like to keep to a schedule, but not
Okay.
always possible.
Yeah, and I will acknowledge that you've all been very responsive when I've asked, so thank you. And then a related question is on trees, especially these continuing to menace us ash trees, and also some of the debris that was a result of a couple of storms this past winter. I see your crews out moving big debris piles off of the shoulders for motorist safety reasons. How about with trees and debris? Is there a schedule on which you're operating? Is it road by road on an as-needed basis?
The superintendent has, as they ride and they see or get complaints or see it themselves, they put it on their list and they just try to get to it as they can and work it in with their other work activities.
And I assume, as always, if we contact you or David Jenkins about a particularly bad area or a tree that's about to fall, it can be addressed relatively quickly.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yeah, you may.
One thing, thank you very much for accelerating the pace of the Fodder Stack Road cleanup. I recall that the 10K race was coming up, reached out to Mr. Jenkins and said, hey, I think you guys can clean up the shoulders on Fodder Stack before the runners get out there, and they jumped right on it, so
It's good to hear. I'll pass
that's
that on.
excellent.
That's awesome.
The other is a question related to the school zone camera signs. Are you engaged in permitting on that yet, or trying to?
I don't know that we've received anything on that, or will we be getting something from
I hope so.
Rappahannock?
Yeah, and so have you done that elsewhere in the district already? Or in
Yes,
the
we've,
residency?
Fauquier County has them pretty much all over the county.
Excellent. Well, you should see some coming from us.
Okay,
Great. Thanks a lot, Mark. We appreciate everything.
Thank you
And
very
same
much.
to your local crew here. We're grateful for them.
I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark.
Next, we'll have our standard public comment period. I just want to make one comment about this. At our last public hearing, my first time chairing one of our meetings, I took a rather casual approach to allowing people to say their piece without strict time limits. But one citizen who has done this now twice decided to abuse my reasonableness and flexibility. So in light of that, I don't like doing it. I'm going to impose a 5-minute time limit so that everyone has the same amount of time.
I can put a timer on the screen if you like.
That'd be good. And once you hit 5 minutes, I'll ask you politely to wrap up your remarks in about 10 seconds. And that way we don't run into First Amendment questions or arguments about unfairness. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak? Ms. Grigsby.
I won't even take 5 minutes. Laura Grigsby, Hampton District. Floyd and I believe that it is unreasonable for this board to ask us, the taxpayers, to adjust our household our household budgets without telling the school board to adjust theirs first. And I'm beginning to wonder which is going to be more important, a bloated school board budget or a new oversized courthouse? I can't afford both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Claire? Thanks. If you just let everyone know your name and where you reside.
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Claire Castle. I'm a resident of Castleton, Stonewall Hawthorne District. I'm here today in support of applying dark sky compliant lighting restrictions to commercial and industrial outdoor lighting and extending restrictions to residential uses. Currently, the Rappahannock County Code controls commercial and industrial lighting and excludes residential uses. During the April 7 regular board meeting, the board tasked the county administrator with reviewing residential lighting ordinances from other localities who have extended dark sky lighting provisions to residential lighting. The review resulted, as noted in Gary Curry's memorandum of April 28th, in citing Culpeper County, Albemarle County, and Fairfax County as examples of localities that illustrate how lighting restrictions can be extended from commercial industrial uses to non-commercial industrial parcels. While these localities illustrate the application of outdoor lighting restrictions to residential uses, I encourage the board and county administrator to also consider the application of Dark Sky International's 5 principles for responsible outdoor lighting in any review of the Rappahannock County Code. Note that the Dark Sky International organization is the recognized worldwide authority for night sky protection and the lead organization in identifying and publicizing the negative impacts of light pollution. The organization's 5 principles outline what responsible outdoor lighting looks like. It's lighting that is useful, targeted, low-level, controlled, and warm-colored. There are many other excellent resources that are available on Dark Sky International's website, including a model ordinance recently published by the organization. While the model ordinance is not likely an option for Rappahannock County, Dark Sky International has created templates for local and state laws that support reasonable and responsible outdoor nighttime lighting. These may serve as helpful resources for the county. So light pollution is real and increasingly recognized. It destroys wildlife habitat by disrupting light and dark cycles that govern life-sustaining behaviors. It wastes energy and money. It harms human health and more. It decreases safety and security. It even inhibits scientific research and robs us of our night sky heritage. So bringing it all home, we know that Rappahannock County is a special place. We have these beautiful nighttime skies. The Milky Way is still in view. We've made a lot of progress in protecting our night skies through voluntary replacement of unshielded outdoor light fixtures with fully shielded fixtures. Churches, commercial establishments, county school parking lots, the library, and residences have voluntarily opted to replace their lighting fixtures. Public outreach and education is ongoing, but to continue and build on these efforts, particularly in the face of ever-encroaching development, and to maintain the royal character of Rappahannock, of our ability to see the Milky Way, we need to take steps to do more to protect our magnificent night skies. So with that, I thank you for this opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Very well said, Claire.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Chris Parrish. Stonewall Hawthorne District.
Chris Parrish, on Hawthorne. So Rappahannock County is unique in a lot of ways. We, aside from the fact we don't have any stoplights and that kind of stuff, we are the only county in Virginia probably that does not have any debt. And we're the only county that does not have GIS, which protects us from developers like Ryan Homes. And we're probably one of the I've seen the maps, we're one of the very few counties on the East Coast that still has dark skies. And so we need to try to maintain that. It's not just, people need to light up their yard, but they don't need to trespass their light onto other people's properties. And so I would encourage you all to pass this on to the Planning Commission, and let's get to work on it. This whole thing started 15 years ago. It doesn't affect people that already have houses. I'm just thinking that the way to do it is to have the an ordinance where to get the permit to move into, the lighting, outside lighting has to be shielded downward. And then, we also have a really good education system here. And we need to keep that going. My son graduated from the high school here, and we had a reassessment a few years ago. It lowered the tax rate. A lot of the houses, the smaller houses, their assessment did not go up, and the tax rate went down. So a lot of my neighbors told me personally, I was still on the board at the time, that they were appreciative of the fact that their real estate taxes actually went down after the last reassessment. The only logical way to give the school what they need is to raise the tax rate. These people that have built these $1 million homes, they're going to feel it. But the rest of us, I don't think it's going to affect us that much. Hopefully, hope it doesn't affect you. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Attorney, good to see you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tony Van Acker, a private citizen from the Stonewall Hawthorne District. I live in Castleton. And I'd like to add my support to extending the dark sky lighting provisions of the existing lighting ordinance to residential outdoor lighting. I think doing so will minimize the adverse impact of any additional lighting that might arise from future development here in the county. Our county's dark skies are both a local and national treasure that should be preserved. I read Gary Curry's memorandum about how this extension could be achieved and steps that surrounding counties have taken to deal with the issue. Indeed, counties all around the country are recognizing the benefit of regulating residential outdoor lighting. Some of these counties look to model lighting ordinances for guidance. And in fact, if you Google model outdoor lighting ordinance, you will find a number of sources for model templates that support responsible outdoor nighttime lighting. And one such ordinance template that's available from the Dark Sky International Organization has already been mentioned. Regardless of the template that the county may choose to consult, there are a few basic design principles that should be followed, and those were touched on by a previous speaker. Some of these are already included in the existing ordinance, such as downshielding. However, others, such as light color, is not addressed and would be a welcome improvement. Then there's the question of applicability and implementation. My suggestion is to extend the regulation to all new residential construction that would require a permit, so that would be a triggering event. Existing residences would be exempt. But if a major renovation or a building addition required a permit, then the ordinance provisions probably should apply. Implementation could be easily integrated into the existing permitting process in any project completion inspections. Compliance with the provisions of the amended ordinance could be as simple as a checklist similar to what we do for cars when we get our cars inspected annually. Again, I would encourage county administration and the Board of Supervisors to proceed with amending the existing ordinance 170-119 to include responsible outdoor nighttime lighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Anyone else? Okay, I'll go to those participating online, and I see that Josh Savy, who's a business owner in Sperryville, has his virtual hand raised. Josh, hopefully you're unmuted now and you can speak freely. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you well, thank you.
Great, thank you. Josh Savvy, People Black District. As members of this board know, I've previously raised concerns with respect to actions taken by the Rappahannock County Water and Sewer Authority and what it means for commercial activities in Sperryville. In particular, my concerns have centered on what has become an increasingly expensive system for users. As many of you know, at its most recent meeting, RCWSA raised monthly rates by 46%, stating that they had no option given the loan that was undertaken to do capital improvements in the sewage plant. At the same time, RCWSA stated that there's a lot more work to do on the system that won't be covered by the loan, particularly as it relates to the collection system. When asked whether grants had been researched, it was stated that there had been limited work on grants because the board simply did not have enough time. That brings me to my ask. On your agenda this afternoon is 2 possible reappointments to the RCWSA board. I would ask members of the Board of Supervisors to hold off on making any appointments at this time and advertise the position. I mean, the current terms don't end until July, so I think there's plenty of time. There's a number of folks interested in volunteering that are committed to seeking out alternative sources of funding so we don't find ourselves in a position of exponentially raising rates again. Just to be clear, I certainly appreciate the years of service of the current board members and appreciate their willingness to continue to volunteer. But I do believe that new energy and new perspectives would be a positive change for RCWSA. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Is there anyone else online who wants to speak? Okay, great. We'll go ahead and close the public comment period. And next is, will be my entertaining a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the caveat that any board member is welcome to call out any items folded within the consent agenda if they wish to discuss or those further or vote on them separately.
I will make a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there a second for Mr. Carney's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the consent agenda?
Could we look at the minutes, and this doesn't need to be a drawn-out discussion, but I believe it's the minutes from the 28th during the budget work session when we discussed the health care. I did want to ask for the record that the minutes include the statement I made before the vote that we, as a board, have been brought multiple scenarios for changes to employee health care in the past and had passed on those options. And I didn't understand why we continued to receive them in light of that. And I believe Chair Donahay's response was, it seems people do take, and I'll certainly let her speak for herself, but frequently people do take a position more for the benefits than for the actual pay in the world we're living in. And I do think that is an important part of that discussion, which was not captured by the minutes.
Yeah, if the minutes are intended to be changed by the board, it'd be appropriate to adopt the consent agenda without the March 28th minutes, and then you can have a quick discussion on the March 28th.
So I'll amend my, is this what you said? I'll amend my
Yeah.
motion to pull out the minutes and
Of all the minutes or just the March 28th?
Just
just the
March
March
28th
28th minutes and to adopt the rest.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
Ms. Comer, is that?
do you want to amend your second?
I'll amend
We're
my
calling out
second.
those minutes. All right. Motion is second. All those in favor? Say aye. Aye. Ms. Donahue?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now on the minutes for the 28th.
And it's just that change that I
Okay.
stated.
Okay,
And certainly, Chair Donahue, is that your recollection of your statement as well? I don't want to speak on your behalf.
No, I appreciate that. I did say that a lot of people these days are looking at their benefits more than they are looking at their salaries.
And I think that's really critical to capture for the record, and thank you for going on the record with me on that.
Okay,
So
so those have been amended. Do you want to
Are
make
you
them?
wanting me to paraphrase what you just said into the final minutes, or?
I have full confidence that you can paraphrase from the recording for posterity.
Okay.
As I'm sure people will refer to it over and over again as the years go by.
Yeah, it's headed to the Rappahannock County Archives.
It'll be on plaque, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to put forward a motion that we
Oh, if you could
adopt those as
indulge me
amended?
by adopting the March 28th minutes as with the requested amendment, please.
Okay, I'll second her motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we have one presentation, I believe, right?
Yes, sir.
Right now, and I'll invite Ms. Crooks up, who's the Director of our Social Services here in Rappahannock County. And this is a very controversial proclamation. Can't explain the crowd here today. Yeah, but this is an important proclamation, particularly given our demographics in Rappahannock County. This is a proclamation declaring this month Older Americans Month. Whereas Rappahannock County includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their strength, wisdom, and experience to our community. And whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds are welcomed, included, and supported. And whereas Rappahannock County recognizes the need to create a community that provides the services and support older Americans need to thrive and live independently for as long as possible. And whereas the Rappahannock County community is well supported by government partners like the Department of Social Services and also by non-governmental partners, including Aging Together, Rap at Home, and the Area Agency on Aging, led by Encompass Community Supports. And whereas Rappahannock County recognizes our need to create a community that provides the services and support older Americans need to thrive and live independently for as long as possible. And whereas Rappahannock County can work to build an even better community for our older residents by encouraging individuals and communities to challenge stereotypes and dispel misconceptions. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors that May 2025 shall be Older Americans Month. This year's theme, Flip the Script on Aging, focuses on transforming how society perceives, talks about, and approaches aging. We call upon all residents to join us in honoring older adults' contributions, exploring the many opportunities for staying active and engaged as we age, and highlighting the opportunities for purpose, exploration, and connection that come with aging. Adopted May 6, 2025. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for all you do. Okay, next on our agenda is a section reserved for various board appointments. Item F in the agenda, this is an action item with a recommended action for an appointment to the Rappahannock County Community Policy and Management Team. And I think Mr. Curry can give us some background on this, but I believe it's just one individual who's
That's correct.
replacing another on the slate.
Yeah, so the Department of Health, the director of the local health department district is a named member or their designee. In this case, our current health department director has named Dr. Atlee a new population health manager for the Rappahannock Health District. And it's important for these positions to be appointed because there are certain liability protections afforded to CPMT members who are formally appointed. We are still looking for a private provider. Our recent private provider had to separate for issues, so that's not a required person, but if we have one in the region, then we can appoint them. So you may see that in the coming months and weeks.
Okay, thank you for that background. This should be relatively straightforward.
I'll make a motion to move to adopt the slate of appointees to the CPMT to include appointing Dr. Zelalem Atlee as the new VDH representative who shall serve at the pleasure of the board coterminous with the VDH population health manager position and waive all informalities related to the appointment process.
Great, thank you. Is there a second for Mr. Carney's motion?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Comer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. Great. Next on the agenda is just an informational item regarding the current slate of our highly successful Rappahannock County Recreational Facilities Authority Board. Ms. Burr, her term will be expiring June 30th, and she has expressed an interest in continuing. Ms. Jenkins, her term is expiring also June 30th, 2025, along with Mike Salco. And I think we all recognize how important this board is and how terrific the park is, thanks to all of the work of these current board members and their very active predecessors. So I think really the only question for our board here is whether we want to advertise these or if we want to go beat the bushes and try to find some appointees to fulfill what likely would be 2 potentially open seats.
And I can say I did receive Ms. Burr's application for reappointment.
Okay.
Next month would be your typical month to make these appointments. And this is one of the bodies, like RCWSA, that the policy suggests that I advertise unless you tell me not to.
We haven't heard from the other, Mr. Salco or
Not
Ms.
yet,
Jenkins?
not yet.
There's a meeting next week, and I'll ask. It would shock me if he doesn't want to continue.
Yeah.
He is amazing.
Okay.
But
And then it's just, and Ms. Jenkins, I would be the third, and love to keep her involved if possible. So I think we can probably, my idea is we can forgo advertising for the time being.
I think until we hear from the people currently serving, I would not want
Okay.
to advertise.
Great, thank you.
And I think we have a window of opportunity to make the appointment if we need to later.
Okay, let's just go ahead and to make it administratively neat, if someone could just move to forgo the policy identified here for advertising and not advertising. So that's a motion to direct the county administrator to not advertise for the 3 positions.
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Great,
Aye.
thank you. All right, great. Next is the Rappahannock County Water and Sewer Authority. We've got 2 board members here. We're grateful for all of your hard work. There are at least 2 positions. It looks like Mr. Haley is up. You've been serving a long time, and we really appreciate it. And Dwayne Seiler is also up at the end of July. Are you intending to reapply, Andrew, or have you?
I've submitted my.
Okay, great. All right,
Yeah,
thanks.
so Mr. Haley and Mr. Seiler have submitted an application. Following the appointment of Mr. Trafton, Mr. Walker submitted an application and said, hey, next time you have an opening, please consider me. This, like I said, this is another one that I'm compelled to advertise unless the board tells me
Okay,
to.
why don't we do this? I mean, I think Mr. Savvy, who spoke during public comment, has indicated that there are other citizens already interested in these positions, so I see no point in advertising.
I think the Water and Sewer Authority is at a critical juncture right now, and I think the phrase that was used in one of the applications was a potentially contentious time. I think it's beyond that. It is a contentious time. And what I hear from users of the system is that they want RCWSA board members that will interface with the public to seek financial solutions and grant opportunities for the work on the system to avoid overburdening the users, both business and residential users. So that's the feedback that I've gotten from residents and businesses. And what I haven't heard, what I have heard from folks that are currently serving is that they're busy and they don't want to take on anything else. and that if the citizen group works through options, then they will consider them. But as we all know, I mean, we've been through it on this board before. I know Chris and I certainly have been, that the people that you appoint should be the ones doing the work. That you shouldn't need a blue ribbon committee or a breakout committee or a special committee. It should be the people in the seats doing the work. So,
Would you like to advertise and cast a wide
I
net?
think that if we could advertise with an emphasis on folks that have a utilities background, that have financial acumen, and also grant writing, those are the things that I hear people really desiring in the Water and Sewer Authority
Okay.
appointees.
That's very productive. So you've shaped the advertisement, and I don't believe any action is needed, as we'll be following the standard approach here to advertise unless we decide not to. So, okay, very good.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and so do the folks in Sperryville very much.
Great. Next on the agenda, frankly, I'm very excited to hear this presentation, which I think will be from Ms. Jewell. It's a question I've been asking our auditors for several years, and it turns out that the answer rests with Ms. Jewell, not our auditors. And this is an interesting question for everyone to think about, especially this year as we are facing pressure for a possible tax increase, and then the question of what other revenue could be brought to bear on a budget deficit with cash on hand, which is, of course, our Rappahannock County taxpayers' reserves. And so Ms. Jewell has developed a policy that speaks to what our, it's basically, I think, in the end, a cash flow analysis that instructs us how much cash we should have on hand at any given time as we send out tax bills and collect revenue and pay our bills. And so I look forward, and I know we all look forward to hearing your presentation. Thanks for your work on this.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. So I hadn't planned to do a full-blown presentation again since we had that at the last board meeting, but I will go back through this pretty quickly, and then we'll take a look at the graph again that's on the last page. So the general fund balance and reserves policy is drafted here, and basically it says that based on Governmental Accounting Standards Board prescribed best practices, we will have as part of our fund balance a breakdown of the classifications that are non-spendable portion of the fund balance, restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And within the draft policy, there's a brief description of what each of those means. But that ultimately, what is really tangible and up for discussion during the budget and during this presentation is a reservation within the unassigned portion of the fund balance. One reservation is a liquidity reserve, and that is really what is the cash flow need between June 30th of any ending fiscal year and December 5th, when the next batch of tax revenue is due. What is the cash flow need that is supported by, not taxes coming in, but the use of that fund balance that remains at any given June 30th? That's what the liquidity reserve is. And as I did the analysis on that, based on the last, back to fiscal 20, based on the analysis there, I would recommend that that the board set the liquidity reserve at 12% of the sum of general fund expenses other than the transfer to the school operating fund plus the school operating fund expenses. And so that would be setting aside within the fund balance an amount that is necessary to pay for the net expenses of the general fund and the school operating fund that aren't supported by revenue coming in during that period. That's 12%. I am also recommending a budget stabilization reserve equal to the greater of $2 million or 5% of the same basis. So of the sum of general fund expenses other than the transfer to the school operating fund plus the school operating fund expenses. Those two things combined, the liquidity reserve and the budget stabilization reserve, would be no less than 17% of the budget. And that percentage ties in with the Government Finance Officers Association best practice recommendation that any government have on hand at least 2 months of expenses within their fund balance. 2 months is 16.7% or 17%. And so in this analysis here, this has not changed since you saw this at your last meeting. The top portion above the horizontal black bar there is where I did the analysis of, okay, what does the liquidity reserve need to be? How much from any given June 30th to December 5th have we needed to use of the fund balance? And that ranged from 10% in fiscal 22 to 12% in fiscal 23. And so I am recommending 12%. My preference would always be to have a little more on hand than what we actually need, so as not to get in a situation where we have to borrow money for ongoing expenses. And then below that section, Mr. Curry, if you could just scroll down a little bit. There you go, thank you. So what you see here is representative of all the figures directly above this graph, but it is showing a breakdown of the fiscal 23 on the left-hand side and the fiscal 24 there in the middle, components of fund balance. And I know this is hard to see from where you're sitting, but it breaks down the unspendable portion, which is very minor in any given fiscal year, the restricted portion, which is usually grants and other legal or regulatory restrictions. Committed funding is, well, let me just look here. Committed funding is the funding reserved for capital projects and for other things like that the board has already committed the funds for. And assigned. And assigned are things like the funds at the end of any given fiscal year that have already been budgeted by the board towards the next fiscal year's budget. And then on each of these graphs, that top portion, the blue portion, is the unassigned. And, the blue, the green, and then the lighter blue. That's the unassigned, with the lighter blue being in each of those fiscal years the liquidity reserve, the green being the budget stabilization reserve, if we were to apply this policy to those fund balances. And then the dark blue being the unassigned that would remain unassigned. And so that's really it for me.
Great. I do have one question. If you looked at our setting aside this policy, which is really well structured and very clearly articulated and supported, if you look at our lowest cash point, we'll call it June, appropriately the June 30th date every year, and you look at our cash balance, like the last, call it 5 fiscal years, and then separate from that, you adopt your 17% liquidity and budget stabilization, call them reserves. What are we, I'm just trying to do the numbers in my head. It seems like we're probably holding somewhere above $3 million in cash beyond the 17% and I ask that question because I've had these conversations with the treasurer and revenue commissioner in the past. I know Ms. Smith has too, that I think a struggle for us when we're talking about tax increases is how do you, all things being equal, how do you justify a tax increase when we've already arguably overtaxed our citizens to a point where our cash reserves, and I don't want to say this too casually or flippantly, but where our cash reserves perhaps are beyond what they need to be. And so am I correct that we're talking on average about a $3 million difference where we've got $3 million in overtaxed padding that under your analysis and your policy, we otherwise wouldn't need to have?
So I've tried to answer that here, looking at the fiscal '24 fund balance breakdown. We obviously don't have the fiscal '25 breakdown yet, and honestly, you have to go through all the steps of the audit to get to that.
Right, yeah.
So I'm not willing to guess on that
Yeah.
here. But at fiscal '24, the unassigned portion using this policy would have been $3.575 million. It's what that arrow is pointing to.
Okay, I got you. All right.
And then we know that of that 3.575, during the course of fiscal '25, after the fiscal '25 budget was already adopted, during the course of fiscal '25, the board has voted to make use of $449,000 of the fund balance for life packs and for the RCS generator. We also know that the fiscal '26 budget, as recommended, is planning to use another $437,000 of that. So when you take those two things that have either already been budgeted or are heavily considering to be budgeted out of that $3.575 million, that means there's $2.7 million left. So that's $2.7 million for the upcoming budget. That's $2.7 million for the courthouse. That's $2.7 million that's there once to be spent once.
Yep, correct.
And that doesn't include 2 buses that the board just,
That's correct. So one of those buses would come out of here. The other one bus would come out of the amount to be added to the fund balance at the end of this year from the free-up of the tax sale money.
And apropos our discussion last time, it wasn't that we were overtaxing per se, but it was federal dollars.
yeah.
So if you go back and look, she discussed this, there was a bump because of the influx of.
Between CARES Act and ARPA Act,
Yeah.
the.
And because we have such incredible staff and an incredible treasurer, we're able to stick to it and hold on to it.
So you can see on the cash graph for the last, just kind of look at 2023, 2024, 2025, they're retracing themselves, which means you're essentially spending what you take in.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and on that graph, you see that 2025 is below 2024, and that's to be expected when funding from the fund balance is being spent for capital projects.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like, now that you've explained it, some of those big ticket items like the generator, life packs, those are all emergency services, public safety initiatives, and I do like to have the flexibility of just doing those, because sometimes you just gotta get them done. And I think both of those were very wise uses of taxpayer dollars. I think my question is obvious, and that is, are we sure we're not overtaxing our citizens? It seems like in light of those items you just identified and future needs, we're sort of settling into a point of equilibrium, it seems, maybe within $1.5 million of excess, all things being equal. So I think it's a really great policy, and I'm glad that we have you to put this together.
Thank you.
And I would love offline in your office for you to explain to me the analysis you did, because I'd like to understand it in more detail.
Okay.
So there is, we do need to adopt this policy. So I would entertain a motion to do so at this time.
I'll move to adopt a policy 315, general fund balance and reserves, and I'd like to thank you, Ms. Jewell, for doing this incredible work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Great. Any further discussion?
Well, I just want to thank you for doing the work that I've been trying to get done since I got elected on this board.
I'm glad I could help.
Finance committee role to do it, but, sometimes it takes what it takes and as long as it takes. And I have to say, I didn't get to the numbers the way that you did. I kind of thought about the budgeting class. I think, Mr. Woodson, you were in that class, and Ms. Donahue, the VACO budgeting class.
Yeah.
And how, the county budget is not very different from your home budget.
Right.
And you sort of want 90 to 120 days in reserve, and we just paid about $1 million worth of bills. And so it's a different way to get to the same number. Makes a lot of sense, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I
Thank
would
you.
like to thank you too, and I think your 25 years of experience in local government probably contributed to this excellent policy, did it not?
I would like to think so, yes.
Definitely.
So I'm
25
glad.
years, that's a long time.
I'm glad we landed you. I appreciate that your experience as a, put together this policy. Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you.
And was Pudmeyer one of your math teachers when you were in the school system?
Was who?
Was Pudmeyer?
Yes,
Okay, good, I
yes.
figured.
She was my 6th grade math
So
teacher.
we'll thank Pud also for.
Exactly.
Did we get a second? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Donna seconded, so the motion is to adopt the policy of Ms. Jewell, so it was excellently prepared. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, thank you, Bonnie. What's that?
So BoardDocs is very laggy for,
Oh, no problem.
I'm glad to know it's not just me.
Okay, so this next agenda item is a thank you very much, thanks. Standing agenda item that I put on some time ago, and I'll just say that,
Bye, Sherry. Bye.
all I'll say on this front is, without calling me first, the Vice President of the United States showed up in the town of Washington this weekend. Not that he needed my permission, but it would have been good to get a heads up. The town was basically locked down and locked up, and it's great. It's great that the Vice President could come out and enjoy the Inn at Little Washington, but it was just a reminder that traffic flow through the town is pretty important for our citizens, and as the inn continues to grow in popularity and fame, I trust that Patrick O'Connell and others on his team, and I know they will, and they've told me they will, continue to find every way possible to get employee parking arranged in such a way that it doesn't affect the ability of all of our citizens in the Hampton District and beyond to transit the town when they need to, particularly with cattle and hay trailers. The proposed new development at the inn has been scaled down significantly, so I think that will help. And I know Mr. Curry, at my request, has been looking at some somewhat superficial but still important pavement marking initiatives, and also the installation of speed signs, permanent ones on either side of the town. Everyone else seems to have really nice signs in their districts, and I'm feeling a little left out. So hopefully Mr. Nesbitt and his team will get those land use permits to us that we need for those. Anyone?
I was thinking that when the town goes through their 20-mile-an-hour process, that's going to require additional signage to be put up, and that will be an opportunity for us to have locations.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Traffic was not moving 20 miles an hour this week, and I assure you that. Anyone else? Anything around your districts on the commercial front? Any concerns? Anything?
Well, when you all are ready to part with one of your temporary signs, the area near Water Penny Farm will gladly welcome back a temporary sign.
I
think there's
moved
one
back there.
There's one there now.
It's like batteries died, and actually I haven't managed to tell the person who changes the batteries that the batteries are dead, but
Great.
yeah.
Great.
I lived it there just before Sperry Fest.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Next on our agenda, Ms. Smith had asked for this as a standing agenda item. This is ongoing discussion about our regional fiber to the home broadband project, and I'll be interested in hearing from everyone. I just want to say I think there could be a bit of an expectation that there's going to be a sky is falling type response to the Culpeper County Board of Supervisors decision to end their agreement with All Points Broadband. And I just thought it would be worthwhile stating some of the facts, which seem to often get ignored, especially places like RapNet. So the facts are this. We had basically one option to get fiber in our county. We drew a hard line with Mr. Innes the last time he stood before our board, and he made a commitment that construction in Rappahannock County would begin no later than September of this year. I don't believe there's anything to suggest that that's not going to happen. But in terms of our responsibilities and ability to verify All Points Broadband's commitment to and ability to deliver this project, the first point of verification will be whether or not construction begins in September. The other area that we talked to Mr. Ennis about was once construction starts, how many miles per month do they expect to complete? And those numbers are out there. They were discussed. And I think the second point of verification, once construction starts, is are they moving at such a pace that we can have this done by the end of 2026, which is what we are expecting. So those are some of the facts. The other facts I want to point out on the financial side of it, there are naysayers, particularly on Rappahannock, who would like to throw me and certain others on the board in jail, in prison, because we've made a commitment to All Points Broadband, and that somehow we've broken the law in doing so. So $3.5 million from Chuck and Diacre, private citizens, $3.5 million, plus $1 million in COVID relief money, and another $400,000 in COVID-related relief money from the schools.
And $1 million from PATH.
And thank you. And $1 million, I was about to add up the numbers, and $1 million from the PATH Foundation. So for the umpteenth time, let me explain. When you're looking at cost-benefit analysis in this context, we have 0 local tax dollars at risk. And we can argue about what COVID relief money is, but that did not come out of our county treasury. That was put in it by the federal and state governments. And that money, if this project fails, will come back to us with interest to be used for some other purpose. So while I'm sure a few people would love to see this project fail, if for no other reason than to say, I told you so, I think that we remain, in my view, should remain committed to All Points Broadband. Frankly, the Culpeper County exit from the overall state project, if you want to look at it from a state perspective, should be good news for us. And we're a small county, small population, project shouldn't be that difficult to deliver. So maybe Culpeper actually will free up some resources that can be directed toward us. So I just want to lay some of that out. I don't have much else to say other than until we get some clear indication that All Points is not starting construction by September and is not proceeding at a pace where the project can be done by the end of the year, I'm sticking with them. Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Well, I had requested this to be an ongoing agenda item, and certainly in the course of a month, we never know what will evolve, and this was breaking news over the past weekend. So it isn't like I anticipated some escalated discussion. I just think that this is an important project in which we have a lot of money invested, and it behooves us to visit it every month to keep an eye on the physical progress of the project and the financials of the project as well. I think there's money from the Northern Piedmont Community Foundation too. Wasn't there $100,000?
There's donations that were given to NPCF from citizens.
So I just wanted to mention that too. So I read with great interest the article coming out of Culpeper County, and knowing some of those supervisors and how very even keel they are in their personalities and their long record of public service, their on the record comments regarding their relationship with All Points Broadband should be a warning to us as a board for what we might expect. And I understand that I'm in the minority that did not support this project. But, you know, the good supervisors of Culpeper County did, and their reward for trying to see the project through was that when push came to shove and they had to exit the project, as a parting prize, All Points Broadband issued letters that threw them under the bus. So I think we need to be very wary of our continued relationship with All Points Broadband. They are our partner in a business relationship leveraged through another multi-party business relationship in which we are clearly not in the driver's seat. I know we have just talked repeatedly about this, and the decision has been, or the opinion has been, to wait until the fall, till September, to see what really evolves. And sometimes you do have to wait and see if people do what they say they're going to do. And we have to give them that option or opportunity. And I, for one, remain skeptical. It would be nice to think, hey, Culpeper backed out. That's going to mean something great for Rappahannock, and maybe it will. But we can't overlook that in the year we joined the broadband efforts, the program was expanded sevenfold. So Culpeper was ahead of us by a year, and they couldn't get traction. What does that mean for us as a county? And I don't want to be in the position that supervisors in Culpeper County now find themselves in, where their constituents quite vocally on social media are saying, why didn't you all do something else sooner? Why didn't you watch out for us? I continue to think there are 2 points from which we have not heard back from Mr. Ennis that we asked him about during his visit. I think one was, what does the design look like for in-ground implementation? I don't believe we've received any response from that request, and I think that was a request from all the board members. And the other item that we discussed as a board was the willingness of All Points Broadband to enter into an addendum item that would provide services at a discount to folks in the county for delays in the service installation. And that's an important point to leverage while we have the opportunity. And I think it's been several months now since we've heard from them, and we should ping them on those points.
Good, thank you. Ms. Comer, anything?
No, I appreciate the situational awareness. As you stated, no one is in line to help with broadband efforts. So I appreciate the situational awareness. I believe our broadband authority is meeting in June. I'm all for asking for another update, although the one provided shows things relatively on schedule. And I can be patient until fall.
I mean, do people want to reach out to people that have engaged us previously? Should we reach out to Chantel? Chantel's answer was, we are interested in working with you, but we do not have a comprehensive answer to your RFP at this time.
Yeah, my view is, Ennis came in here, how many months ago, 2 months ago? It was
January.
January.
Oh, wow.
And
Time flies.
yeah, and so I feel like we laid down some, I think, pretty strict parameters for progress, and I think at this point we wait and hopefully it can start before September and get rolling and demonstrate, I would say within a test month or two, that their per mile completion rate is sufficient to put in the miles that they're going to need to. Do you remember I think he said 10 to 20 a month.
Yeah, I think it's on here. So on the broadband, rapbroadband.org website, right at the very top, there's a latest update section. On there is a link to the presentation from that meeting. And so page 3 of that says average rate of 17 miles per month.
Yeah.
So that says August 2025. So that schedule that was in that presentation, when I spoke with the principals of All Points this morning, I expressed to them that transparency and cooperation are very important.
Yeah.
And that this schedule is everything to the project, and managing expectations relative to this schedule is critical. And that if some date is going to be missed on this schedule, then we need to talk about it before it's going to be missed. And if it's going to be, we're going to be better than that schedule, then that's good news too. But we need to be in constant contact about that schedule. Yeah. And so they assured me today that the schedule was still good. They did say that the VDOT permitting, based on their information learned through the residency, is that they only need a 30-day advance window to construction. So they told me that has not started yet. Although the poll fielding we've seen happening throughout the county right now, which is supposed to be done by May 15th. So I told them I want something in writing relative to the schedule, and they said they would do it.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, Christine, my view is, we did hold his feet to the fire a bit at our last meeting. You know, Mr. Anderson made a good point, a few months back, where he, I thought, very thoughtfully referred to this as a grant program. And, you know, in many ways it is. It's, I think Mr. Ennis, confirmed himself when I posed the question, how many localities in the Commonwealth of Virginia have 0 local tax dollars committed to a fiber project currently, and we're the only one. So the risk on us is, I would say, pretty limited risk. I think you identify other sort of non-financial risk, which is time spent waiting on a vendor when someone else might be interested. And I appreciate that point. And I think that, to Ms. Comer's point, if we just let them show us that they can stick to the schedule, as Mr. Curry said, and we start seeing residents hooked up from the first cabinet, as they described it, later this summer, with real commitment to hitting their 17 miles a month, I don't see any reason for us to then start at square one, because I think if we go to Chantel or anyone else, we're gonna be starting over anyway. So let's just see what we can get under these commitments, and come September, if it's still crickets, then it's a whole different conversation.
The other component of the agreement is the financial component, which of course there was about $6 million in deposit in Warren County in the name of the regional commission over there, which is garnering approximately $20,000 a month in interest. Yeah. And with the kind of tough budget season that we continue to have, I just continue to ask the question, what's happening with that money? Because I know that we aren't all in on this. A quarter of that deposit is Rappahannock County funds, and which is still $5,000 a month. And in my house, that's real money. I don't know about everybody else's house, but that's $60,000 a year, which could go up to, we could leverage some financing for the school's roof or another project with that funding.
Well, we'll get that money back.
Maybe.
What do you mean, maybe?
I mean, where do you see it in writing that we're going to get it back?
Where do you see in writing that they get more than what we've committed for?
I would think if their costs escalate, which they will undoubtedly have more costs in this project than they originally anticipated, and it's on deposit somewhere else, overseen by another body, that we should actually be hawkish on what happens to that money.
Well, I agree with you. So, Mr. Goff, can I ask you a legal question?
Yeah.
You think that they can take more money than we've committed to?
No, Mr. Curry and I looked at the agreements, the regional agreements, and all, including the agreement that we have, and we would be entitled to the interest legally.
Well, then why can't we start to get it back now?
Because that's the agreement that we.
I think you arguably could, in conversations with Northern Shenandoah Valley Regional Commission, they wanted to try to be uniform in how that was handled.
Yeah.
Our agreement with our local donors was such that certain donors were last in on what money they provided. All of that money has been collected and submitted now, so arguably the last in, you've done that. The agreement with the Regional Commission very clearly states we will not spend more than $5.9 million, period. It also states that December 31, 2026, anything that's not spent is coming back to us. So we know those 2 points very clearly.
But we don't get all of it because it's not all our money.
We get it
proportionally.
Well, we would get it all back, whatever's not spent. We would have obligations to the grantors.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but I mean, we're not paying for this. Then we've committed to it. I mean, that would be a public relations nightmare for them, which I would grill them over.
That was one of the,
I agree with you that we're not doing that.
That was one of the late changes that very specifically the clause is that we will not spend more than the amount in the table, which is $5.9 million.
Just in a tough budget year, it would really be great if we could get that money back, and I have a hard time believing that other counties don't feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think at a minimum, if the question is a uniform policy across the project partners, ask them to reexamine the policy, I mean, or clarify what the policy is. It is, I agree, it's real money. But if we're talking about $60,000 on a $6 million commitment, and our interest per annum would be 60,000 on our 1.4, and we're about to get the project underway, I just assume, just get the project done and then.
Plus, it requires us, we should get it in one lump sum, so we can do one disbursement as opposed to like multiple, and as we go along, if we start tranching it out, we're gonna have to divide it up, and the administration's gonna get heavier in terms of how we have to.
We did not contemplate it in our agreements with Path Foundation or the Vegas Foundation on what would happen with interest earned. I think that's a conversation that probably needs to happen.
Yeah.
Those parties might be willing to allow the Broadband Authority Board to reinvest it in broadband, make affordability, or who knows what.
That would be
But
cool.
I think you would want to have that conversation before you went too far, and the board certainly speaks for the ARPA part.
So there are two parts to this. Number one is, what is the policy at the regional commission, of which we're currently a part, sort of by adoption? It's not our usual regional commission. And then the second part is for the OCRAs, for Path Foundation, in particular, what would they want to do with interest revenue from the project? So I don't know, maybe we can just put that on the agenda for next month and try to.
Yeah, and I think it's more complicated than just splitting up based on the ratio,
Yeah.
because certain people wanted their money in last, so they could hold their money
Right.
because they're really good at making money on money. And so whoever put their money in first,
FIFO.
you know, would have the most interest, so.
Okay.
Which
it
makes
would
more
get
sense
very
to
complicated.
do it all at once.
Yeah.
Comprehensively.
Yeah.
So let's just put that on the agenda next time. I think Ms. Smith makes a good point. It's real money. We're looking for real money.
Well, at this point, we're just a few months past the all-in phase where the last party paid in. So it should be relatively easy to do the math, because that interest that was previously paid was deducted from the last all-in amount. So I think it's only 4 or 5 months of accumulated interest. So now is a good time to start keeping track of it.
Well, we've been accumulating interest for many, many months.
On different
and so
parties.
each quarter we paid in, and so those payments were structured based on, the Path Foundation paid in two $500,000
Yeah.
batches, and Vegas paid only when there wasn't other money
Right.
available, and so you
It's-
almost have to construct it backwards to figure out
It's
who
gonna
had
take-
what money in place during what months when the interest rate was whatever.
Sounds like a
it's
good
not-
reason to start now.
That's,
It's gonna take some effort, but anyway, let's just talk about it next month.
But perhaps they'll donate it.
that would be the easiest
And that would be
solution.
the straightest line.
You know,
Yes.
a roof on the school sounds like a winning
Okay.
solution to me.
And just to be clear, it is one-time money, so you pulled a few $100,000 of interest out, it's not a few $100,000 every year.
Right.
Correct.
Because it's gonna be spent down, that,
One-time
the
dollars.
balance that is there, sitting there right now, we want that balance to go down quickly, which means investments are being made, fiber passes are being made, and they're spending the money. We want them to spend the money, that means the project's getting done, which means interest isn't being earned. So we can't expect forward interest more than, this schedule that's on the screen. And interest is going to be diminishing month to month as that money is put to work.
Okay.
From your lips to God's ears, Gary.
All right. So last item under old business. This is another Smith agenda item.
Yes.
And, it's never too early to start talking about fall and the national park. Is there anything in particular you need us to direct VDOT to do or the sheriff's office to do?
Not so much VDOT, but I would like to hear from Mr. Curry what he thinks is the best way forward. I think, as everyone knows, we took a meeting last December and pulled in agents from both VDOT and the national park, representatives of several counties, in particular to talk about the backup down the mountain during peak season last year. And the solution that VDOT proposed was that the park submit a traffic control plan, which it sounds like from Mr. Nesbitt's update today, the park has not submitted that. And time creeps up quickly, and it'll be October before we know it. And the one window of opportunity I did anticipate to discuss this with the national parks face-to-face was the meeting on the 15th, which is now supplanted by a budget meeting. And so I was wondering if we could direct staff to communicate with the Shenandoah National Park, Superintendent of Shenandoah National Park, in regards to traffic control plans for peak season this fall.
Okay, that's your motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, a second, just authorizing county administration to talk with the park administration regarding traffic control planning.
I'll second.
Okay, great, thank you. Ms. Comer, any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie.
for
Thank you,
indulging me
Christine.
with
Sure,
that.
absolutely. Okay, next, we have a proposed new building and zoning permit fee schedule.
Oh, residential lighting.
Did I skip something? Oh, wow,
It's on the bottom one page.
we need better
top of the
lighting.
next.
I couldn't see it.
So I brought this up at the last
Yeah.
meeting during matters presented by the board, and I just wanted to have a general discussion about just some things that we could do that the surrounding counties have, some of them have done to kind of minimize the effect of these crazy new, very inexpensive LED lights that you can purchase for almost nothing and just light up the sky. My primary concern is just, just the increased urbanization of the entire area and protecting Rappahannock in that sense. There are some simple things that can be done that other counties have done that I thought would be interesting to have the Planning Commission kind of discuss if you guys are interested in doing it. There's a number of ways to do this, and I think generally we spoke about last time that it would be, and I think I maybe mentioned this, that it would be just for new construction permits, and that there are things you could do to carve out, different things that other counties have done. So I just thought it was worth a discussion.
Okay, is there a particular motion you want to put forward, or, I mean, I personally, where I look pretty much due east, and I'm staring at the glow from Warrenton that gets brighter and brighter every year. I think we do want to keep Rappahannock County unique and attractive, and I really appreciate Mr. Parrish looking at this from a property rights perspective. I already had it in exchange some years ago with a distant neighbor who had lights shining directly onto me, and I made the point that I had the right to not stare at that person's light. So I guess my only lingering question is, when I talked about this in 2015, John Lozinski was quick to point out that we were somehow limited as a Dillon Rule state from enacting some kind of local ordinance. And if that's not true, and that's not the case, I don't know why we wouldn't put something on the books for new construction. I mean,
It doesn't preclude lights. It just has, you can just add standards like Culpeper, Albemarle, Fairfax, Fauquier's done it for lights. So you can still have an outdoor light lighting up your entire yard if you want. It just has a shield on top of it,
Okay.
so it doesn't go up. And that's pretty much it. You can make it, you can hit the wavelength. So instead of having 5,000, which has more blue in it, and that's the thing with these LEDs. So the thing about the LEDs is that they have more blue light in them, and the blue light is what disperses more. And so that's why sodium lights, like if you go and you drive in the city, they have to, you don't see them as much anymore, but they're like really yellow. They don't light up the sky as much.
yeah.
So you can talk about the wavelength of the light, or you can do shielding. Our LAP has been doing for years, like they'll come to your house and replace lights for free, which is amazing. I don't know how long they've been doing that, but they've been doing it for a long time. But I just have had people, I mean, my district luckily is on the back side of Red Oak, so we don't see necessarily what people are seeing in Clevenger's Corner and the way you're facing.
Yeah.
But you can see it, so I think that with these, what Mr. Curry has put in here, I think are, from a zoning perspective, completely defensible.
Okay, Ms. Smith, you chair the planning commission.
What do you think?
We have a pretty ambitious schedule for the year already, as you all know, with our work on the comprehensive plan and taking special meetings at all the districts to engage constituents as the year goes on. Also, we were recently instructed by this board to undertake work in a numbered manner, with the first item of importance being events. So I would ask that if you do choose to task the planning commission with this, that you send them your preferred version and the order of importance on the tasks assigned to the planning commission.
So let me ask you this from a local government process perspective. Without getting ahead of the planning commission, which you chair, is there anything that would preclude our board working with you and Mr. Goff to send to the planning commission for review of proposed
Well,
ordinance?
as a matter of fact, you could adopt a resolution and say, here's the ordinance we want you to review, have a public hearing within 120 days. If you don't, we'll do it for you.
Or we could just have a joint meeting.
Yeah,
There's no reason to
let's just do this.
to
I don't think
escalate
it's,
quite so quickly.
I don't think it's
I'm
that.
painting one end of the spectrum, so
Yeah, no,
you're fully
we can do that.
authorized to do whatever you want,
We can do
basically.
that.
I just would like to say that I can see the wisdom in this. I always have to ask, well, what's the flip side?
Yeah.
The flip side is that this is another permit, another license, another inspection, and we have very limited staff and resources already. Is it time to leave the carrot for the stick? I'm not sure it is, but I represent the innermost portion of the county, probably have the least concerns over it.
Bless you.
God bless you. I don't think there should be like an annual inspection. That seems
No.
overly cumbersome and tedious, and frankly, we don't have the staff to accomplish that. So I think as part of ordinary permitting processes, if this is a worthwhile endeavor, bless you,
Bless you.
we should be cognizant of the additional duties and time we are asking folks to commit, in addition to what they already shoulder. Otherwise, we may end up with Fauquier with like a planning staff of 20.
Yeah.
We don't want to do that. Well, and with all respect to Fairfax and Albemarle, I don't want to live there either.
Right.
So let's keep it simple, keep it Rappahannock, do what needs to be done, and build some consensus about it.
The biggest impact of something like this would be on the building permit approval process.
Yeah.
Someone would be looking at the type of lights.
Right.
Which would, the zoning side, which we don't usually cross-pollinate except for commercial. We had a commercial building go up where the lighting installed was not appropriate. They were said, you can't do that, and they replaced them.
Okay.
And so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So Mr. Curry had brought up that since we have this already on the books for commercial, we could just make it apply to residential and commercial. And so then when you get your permit, they're going to be looking at stuff anyway. And so it wouldn't be a separate
Okay.
sort of process. And my concern is urbanization. And we are just, the lights are crazy. And I love being able to see those stars out here.
Yeah. Do you want to craft a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to have county staff prepare or draft the current commercial ordinance to include residential new construction. Is that going to work for you, Gary?
Yes, draft an ordinance amendment to include
Yes.
residential new construction into the outdoor lighting ordinance.
Into the outdoor lighting ordinance.
Great. Thank you for your leadership on this, and now I can tell Mr. Parrish that it's fine, because I know this is his favorite topic. So, a second of that motion?
I'll second. Are we making this applicable also to additions and things like that, as Mr. Van Acker recommended?
What is the?
Well, that would be a new, I would deem that as new
fall under the
construction,
same?
right?
Okay.
Yeah. Second, anyone?
I seconded.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry.
And I would just add, as chair of the planning commission, we often make this as a condition of permits regardless.
Yeah, right.
And people are generally happy to comply.
Yep.
Yeah, so this is a good one, so. Great, any discussion? None? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks, Debbie, thanks, everyone. Okay, great, now we're on to this new proposed fee schedule on building zoning permits, and I'll, basically what we're looking here in terms of specific action is, number one, do we agree with the new proposed schedule? And number two, do we want to have a public hearing on the new schedule? So I think we'll hear about the changes, and then we can decide what to do.
Right, if you recall, the budget documents that have been prepared to date and recommended and advertised assumed an 10% increase in revenue from building and zoning permit fees, really just without even thinking about what fees might be needed to do that. Just, it's a number, we gotta go find it, figure it out. And so that's in the budget today, and it's not a huge amount of money, but as you can see, it gets complicated. In addition, I'll point out that the Berkeley Group pointed out to us when they were doing their review that the Code of Virginia, Section 15.2.107 says you're supposed to adopt zoning fees by ordinance. We have never done that, so this would be our first time to fix that, which is why you'd need to advertise a public hearing. So there is a draft ordinance attached to this agenda item, which pretty much just says, because the law says you're supposed to, and a public hearing was held, here is the attached fee schedules are hereby adopted. Those attached fee schedules are shown as Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 to that ordinance, and they're shown on the screen. In addition, attached to this agenda item are rather extensive comparisons from our surrounding localities. And so I think it's most constructive just to look over that. And the first is for zoning. Make it a little bit bigger. So you can see Rappahannock County on the far left with a type of permit on the far left, Rappahannock County's existing fee schedule, a proposed fee schedule, and then fee schedules from Fauquier, Culpeper, Madison, Warren, and Page. Things don't always line up, particularly when you get to the building side, but for the most part they do. So you can see in red in the proposed columns where things are suggested to change. And I don't know how you want to do this. If you just want me to roll through, it is suggested that work without a permit would increase. We don't get a lot of fee out of this, but I think it's important to drive people to do what they're supposed to do if we can. Special use permit and special exception, those are suggested to increase. You can see what our peer localities do. We're at the bottom pretty much.
Okay.
And I think they should be the same, recognizing that the same special use permit, special exception, we have no uses identified to be approved by special use permit these days. The board having held them all to themselves for special exception, so.
I think Faukir's missing a U.
Oh, it is. I fixed that on one thing. Sorry about
It
that.
kept looking funny.
Yeah, FAUQ. Yeah. So that would be an increase, but less than some of our peers. Rezoning, we very rarely get into these. However, conversations with Ms. Summers on this, if we were to get into a significant rezoning, we don't control this, right? This is somebody coming to you wanting to rezone their land. They could come in with a large acreage project. There should be revenue built in that we would probably want to bring somebody in to help us with a large rezoning with complicated proffers.
Yeah.
And which is why the idea of picking up from Fauquier and Culpeper, there should be a base fee, but then a per acre fee. So you get 100-acre something coming in here, you're going to want to be able to afford, consultant assistance, legal assistance, whatever, and that would help with that.
Is there a reason why we're not contemplating a site plan review residential increase?
We don't differentiate between the two right now, quite frankly. So this would be breaking them out. There are very few, if any, site plans needed for residential use. So I think that's why. Maybe we could, if you want to. That's why we're here.
I mean, I don't know if we're taking a look and making adjustments. I don't know why we wouldn't make that adjustment also.
What is this category 1, 2, and 3?
We'll get to that in a
Oh,
second.
sorry.
So is that a general consensus to change the site plan? Is right now it's $200, and to increase that? My thought, I think initial thought was if it's a residential use, which is really not very impactful and not a commercial venture, then those individuals don't quite have the same wherewithal to do that.
I don't think we need to go 5, but I think we could go 3.
Yeah. I mean, it would always be in addition to a other fee.
Yeah, and so let me say this too. You advertise 300, you could adopt 200.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I agree with her.
Okay. So again, site plan review, this is, I'm adding an acreage in there. This is how we did it in my last locality, because just like rezoning, these can get really complicated if it gets to be a big site. And so we might need assistance from somebody to help us in that situation.
Should we have a max on that?
I wouldn't. I mean, if someone wants to come in with a 1,000-acre property, then bring your wallet. Unless you want, after you've gone through the 100-acre, 1,000-acre rezoning and 1,000-acre site plan, I think we're going to want a bunch of revenue to help bring in experts to make sure it's done right. We're not staffed to manage big projects like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree. I mean, there's a lot that goes, not that that's ever gonna happen, but there's a lot that goes into it, and I totally do agree with you that if that kind of thing does happen, it's really critical that it's done right.
Yeah, so
correctly.
in my last locality,
Those things cost us money.
yeah, it was a very detailed process. So category 1, 2, and 3, this is the personal wire service facility. It's a type of special exception, but it's in a separate article. These are cell towers. So 1, 2, and 3, those are pretty much additions to existing cell towers, whether it's put on the side or made a little bit taller. That's a lesser fee. The category 4, that's a new tower. So like the Scrabble tower that was proposed by CWS, this is recommending a higher fee for a new tower. That matches what Fauquier is doing.
So how come in 1, 2, and 3, we seem to be a little bit lower, and what is the benefit of having a flat fee over the actual consultant fee?
I've never seen that before, and I don't know if you could make it stand up unless it was pre-bid or something.
Oh, like it's a little
seems
too squishy?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
when do you hire the consultant?
Well, I mean, 1,500 is way lower than everybody.
If this is literally, there's an existing antenna, they want to put a new set of antennas on the existing tower. Or they need to make the tower 10 feet taller, which is allowed by, we can't stop them from doing from federal government, but it's more kind of, it's a ministerial process. Whereas the category 4 is, this is where we're balloon tests and all the new stuff. And I picked 5,000 just because that was what the others that had a fixed fee.
Well, that's my question.
We didn't hire a consultant
How come
for
you
the
didn't
last
set
set.
the other one to what the other ones are?
Because they don't differentiate at all. This is just repeated the same thing in each one. So this is just any kind of cell tower.
But this is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Why are we differentiating?
Because it's really not a heavy lift.
Yeah, but I mean.
It's not a heavy lift for staff to permit and process a category 1, 2, or 3.
I just wouldn't want to miss revenue where they would go to any other locality and happily pay 5,000 to come to us and it's a windfall.
I'm happy to change it.
I don't know, what do you guys think?
It might not be something might not be a heavy lift, but then something in category 4 might be heavier than we anticipated.
That's
So
true.
if you get just a little bit more, I mean, especially I'm looking at these other localities, they're $5,000 across the board.
Yeah, hey.
So I'm not suggesting that for category 1, 2, or 3, we jump it to $5,000, but if we went to 2,000,
Yeah, and ultimately, like I said, for the other, you advertise a number, you could always adopt a number lower than that. And so if the cell phone people knew about it and came and complained, you could change it.
I just wouldn't want to
Adapt
leave
it.
money on the table. I mean, every other locality we're looking at is $5,000.
Sure.
I mean, they may just have that be part of their budget when they go do this stuff.
Might be. Happy to change it.
I mean, I don't know, what do you guys think?
That's fine.
I don't want to leave money on the
Yep.
I just wonder, do you think these numbers are so high that they might discourage people from coming to us? I don't think they are.
I don't think a cell tower
Yeah,
is,
okay.
the rezonings and the text amendment.
Yeah.
You better be sure you want to do this.
Well, and staff
Yeah,
time
which is
is involved in
important.
the
Yeah,
text
which is
amendment,
important.
so, and then the rezoning extensive.
You want to have skin in the game. Now, the category 5, which is the latest one the board had, this is the one less than 80 feet for broadband or public safety.
Yeah.
Is essentially by right. That didn't, I wanted to make it a little bit more, but I thought that should still be
That
smooth.
encourages
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are tall towers, they're 80 feet.
80 feet, about tree height, right, just around there.
Yeah. Again, just, these are all for advertisement purposes only,
Exactly.
and we're gonna be talking.
You could not adopt fees higher than this.
Right.
After the public hearing.
I hope we get some cell tower applications so we can
It
actually.
would be nice, we have an agenda item tonight to talk about.
I know, I think that's delightful.
Okay. Any other?
So subdivision plats, family division only increasing a little bit. A regular subdivision, again, looking at we could get into a large site needing a lot of analysis, so
Yeah.
$200 plus $25 per parcel.
Okay.
And then that's it.
Okay.
Boundary line adjustments, those are just really simple. So that's zoning.
All right.
Building is more complicated, sorry.
Well, boundary line adjustments, almost half the other counties charge more.
I don't really know why. Basically, what that means is you start with 2 parcels, you end with 2 parcels in the line, or 3, or whatever. You're not making any more parcels, you just have to make sure you're hitting the minimums and not taking something out of conformity. We could definitely change that.
I mean, I just wonder how many of them do we receive? Those last 2 items were substantially
A bunch.
lower than
Michelle, if you're
everybody
able
else.
to chime in, you can raise your hand. But we do a lot of those boundary line adjustments.
How much are they? Sorry, did we move on already? I can't quite.
We have them at
$100
$100 currently, and the proposed rate is $100. Here charges $650.
So we're the same as
Culpeper
Warren and
charges
Page.
$350, and so does Madison, they're at $350. Warren and Page are the same as we are currently. And then the last item, the resurvey, were $50 lower at least than everybody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
those-
this was nickels and dimes.
That's
but-
really someone just wanting to, re-record their survey and have it confirmed. But happy to change those too.
Okay. And then let's flip through building.
Do we want to change those?
You want to advertise a little bit higher?
I mean, I would think for boundary line adjustment, I think that $250 is reasonable.
Sounds good.
And then for a I would take it at least as high as the next lowest, which is Culpeper at $100.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, building fees are notoriously complicated and,
What's the gist? I mean, where are we?
the gist is that our fees are already some of the highest, and so getting 10% out of this is going to be a little trickier.
Okay.
And so what's recommended, I'm going to have to kind of hide some of those over to the right just to make it big enough. Our minimums are already higher than most of the other minimums.
Okay.
There you go. Michelle says we do a lot of BLA's accounts for about half of deed reviews. There you go. I think she's at a computer that doesn't have a microphone. Cover it because the front desk is out. She's working front desk.
What you have looks fine for me for the.
And so this is just a slight increase here. Tents is the thing that would happen here when we have the big tents for the big events. And for the most part, it's going to be the minimum. Just so it's going from 50 to 85. Swimming pools, commercial, don't have many of those. Well, it sounds like we're going to have one in the town. It's going to be, $300, but we're already high. Fireplace and chimney increasing up to basically 85, which is, we're kind of settling in at 85 for a minimum for many of the fees.
Yeah.
85 is the new 50?
That's right. Electrical for the regular kind of smaller services, 85. And then 120 for a bigger commercial. I doubt we'll ever have anything around here with more than 1,200. That's like what's at the school. All those buildings that get moved. But it's just kind of carrying that standard down. Demolition, we have some of those.
Okay.
Change in use, that does come up from time to time when you're going from residential to commercial or something like that. A renewal, when you've kind of taken too long to do your construction. A generator, not everybody calls these out separately. Changing contractor is a new fee that's recommended that staff says is kind of a pain when it causes a bunch of paperwork on our part when there's a handoff from an owner from one contractor to another.
Sure, it sounds like a change order.
And so others are doing it, so we kept it at that kind of consistent.
Sounds good.
The plan review, which is what takes a lot of staff time, increasing these are to 75 for plan review.
Okay.
And then appeal, this 600 is aligned with the zoning appeal.
Okay.
I thought that made sense.
Yep.
And then amusement devices, we don't have a lot of this, but Amesville, Carnival.
Yep.
And then keeping the $200 the same for coasters, which over 30 feet, we may have one of those. So if those seem okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with those changes, somebody go ahead and make a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll move to refer the revised subdivision and zoning fee schedule to the planning commission with the direction to hold a public hearing on.
It could be.
It's gonna have to be at their June meeting because it can't be,
At their
we can't
June meeting,
advertise.
June 2025, and authorize the county administrator to notice a subsequent ordinance adoption public hearing for an increase to the application fees for building erosion and sediment control subdivision and zoning permits.
Incorporating the changes discussed
Incorporating
today.
the changes made today.
Okay. Thanks for coming.
Okay,
If it's the motion, I'll second it.
Great, thank you. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm just curious, when were these fees last reviewed?
July 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, that's reasonable, I think. We're almost 5 years.
So will we get 10% overall? I think, what are we, 120, 130,000 now?
20,800 is the
Maybe.
10% increase.
It's hard to say.
All right, it's something.
Can we make the pool fee $20,000? I feel like
No,
we're gonna
no.
get one of those.
Yeah, I will be unelected quickly. All right,
So, did you vote on that?
nope, we haven't yet. Any other discussion? None? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Debbie. Okay, meals and lodging tax rate, if you remember, this is sort of being dealt with separate and apart from our real property and personal property tax rates that have already been advertised. Because I guess it's because technically they involve an ordinance amendment.
Yeah, because in your county ordinance right now, the rates are specifically listed within the ordinance, within your
Yep.
taxation section.
Yep.
And so those paragraphs within that section need to be amended. That was something I didn't mention on the last one, those, the cell towers. Those rates are listed in the zoning ordinance within that article.
yeah.
And so that will have to change at the same time as
Sure.
the other ordinance. That's all in there.
Got it. Yeah, I would just say this, first of all, on the meals and lodging tax rates, we've got a lot to work out on the budget. I've stated my position, I don't want to increase taxes, period, on any front right now. I think times are going to get tough, and tougher as time goes on, for various reasons. That said, I think we do owe property owners in the county at least some semblance of alternative sources of revenue as part of this discussion. So I personally would say we advertise 6 and see what people have to say about it to keep our options open.
I'll second.
One second first. As a matter of date,
Yeah.
for the lodging tax, we need to notify the state 30 days before it becomes effective. And so if you wanted it to be effective July 1, then that public hearing would have to happen on May 29th.
Okay.
Which would be another meeting.
That's fine.
Alternatively, you could have the public hearing on June 2nd at your regular meeting a couple days later. What that means is the new rates would go into place on July 3rd, which means for July 1st and 2nd, the businesses would have to file 2 reports for that period, one for July 1st and 2nd and one for the rest of the quarter.
Okay, so what do you think we
I
should?
just want to know whether the board is willing and able to be available on
May
May 29th for a public hearing specifically for this, or whether you want to defer to
Isn't that
the
Memorial Day
second.
weekend?
It's just
I
before.
think it's the previous one is Memorial Day weekend, I think. Because it's graduation the next
It's
night.
26th,
Yeah,
week
'cause
of the
it's-
26th.
'cause
That's
it's-
not a good time to hold a public hearing.
It is after Memorial Day.
It's after.
It's
Yeah,
the
but a
week
lot of
of
people
Monday,
are out
Memorial
of
Day.
town that week.
Yeah.
So do you want to do it on June 2nd?
It would be paperwork for businesses,
I would think it would be better to do it on June 2nd.
but, and it would be more likely that people would be paying attention at a regular meeting.
Okay, let's do it then.
All right, sounds good. So, did I make that motion?
I
You started.
You made it.
I made the motion, you seconded it, and it's basically advertised 6, and it's really, again, I say that only because I just want to hear what people have to say. I think there's tension on revenue sources. I am not inclined to raise taxes, but I first and foremost don't want to raise taxes on our property owners in the county, and if a majority of our board decides that they feel like we need to generate revenue, then I at least want to keep options open for generating revenue from somewhere else, although frankly, I can't imagine why we do this either.
I would just say I have heard quite a bit, and I think we all have, from businesses in Sperryville, which that area generates about 40% of our meals and lodging tax.
Mhm.
And people are very resistant to this, and I think rightfully so. And I'll be here for the hearing, but I'm not in favor of raising this.
And so just to be clear, your motion was to do this with a public hearing to occur on June 2nd.
Yep,
That's the motion on the second.
and that's just advertised, it's not changing the tax rate.
That is correct.
I do want.
Opportunity to hear from the public.
Yeah, I do want to hear from people because ultimately there's natural tension there between property owners, residents of the county, and then the business community. And somewhere in the middle of that is the school budget. Somewhere in the middle of that is a decision on the tax rates and how we generate the revenue needed to cover whatever the school decides it needs. So I'm just saying, I want to hear what people have to say because I think there are thoughtful business owners who will have a lot to say. So it's in that vein that I think we should at least advertise it and have a hearing. Any other discussion?
Like I said, I oppose the idea, but I'll be here for the meeting.
Great.
And I think we should hold the meeting.
Yep, good, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And nay.
I'm sorry, Ms. Donahue, what was your vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep.
Was that 5-0?
No, I think Chris, are you?
I voted aye.
Oh, okay, all right, 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Okay, we're now to information reports, correspondence. I guess I'm always interested in a brief update on where we are in various lawsuits.
Any committee reports before we get into that?
Sure, yeah. Donna, do you want to talk about the park?
So, yeah, we haven't met since Stack, which was a huge success. I think you all probably saw pictures, over 400 runners.
Yeah, it's great,
We meet next week.
great.
Stay tuned.
Great. And we did have a quarterly public safety committee meeting. I'm trying to think of some highlights from that meeting. It was really, I think it was our first quarterly meeting of the year? Well, we did talk, as usual, we talked about wrong-way drivers. And one citizen, who we've now heard from twice on the same subject, seems concerned about the fact that we're providing 100% operational support for our volunteer fire and rescue companies, including those in Amosville and Chester Gap in particular, who provide mutual aid. And, on that discussion, I have raised in the context of our budget review, I do think a couple of things. Number one, I think we should get rid of the fire levy board. And I think that it should all of those requests for funding from individual fire and rescue companies should come to us in the form of, like any other county department, an annual budget, and then we pay their bills within the parameters of their annual budgets. I think I love Pete Stenner and many of the folks on the fire levy board. It's a dig at them. It's just, I think it's administratively inefficient. And I think that from a county budgeting perspective, I'd like for us to see the whole picture of where money's going for fire and rescue, and for us to have some ability to shape acquisition of capital that is complementary and not duplicative in what should be functioning as a system. And I think the more we have the ability to wrestle with big financial questions vis-a-vis the individual fire and rescue companies and do that directly here, it also saves those companies the hassle of having to go present their bills to another board. It's just folded into our county's budget process. So that citizens' comments were, I would say, a little too cut and dried, and perhaps lack the nuance need to understand that Chester Gap has a definite role to play in Warren County. Obviously, as Ms. Smith brought up, and we'll discuss later, things are changing with Warren County. And so I think we all need to think about an integrated system of individual fire and rescue companies that operates in a coordinated, fiscally responsible way. And I think the first step there is that this whole fire levy process be set aside for direct reporting to us and our direct oversight of spending. Simple as that. Okay, any other board reports? Christine, do you have anything on the planning commission?
Planning Commission had its breakout session in Amosville. We did not have much attendance, which I think is an historic issue with these comprehensive plan breakout sessions. We struggled to find a way to attract attendees. We talked about getting the whole schedule out. I think we're still working on
We're working on
Gap.
an advertising blitz.
Yeah. And that should pull in, obviously the supervisor of the district as well to help drum up attendance. Because I do think people are interested, but people are also busy. And so, anything we can do to attract a few more people. People talked about, I think Ms. Gressinger said, why don't you have a little giveaway? So my suggestion was, we have those nice caps with the county seal on the front. Maybe we give out a county cap to one of the attendees at every meeting. And by the time we're done, Ms. Ramos and Karen Hunt and Sheila Gressinger
We'll each have one.
will each have a hat, yes.
That's great.
So it should be, you can only win once within the course of a year, and attendance is required. So
That's hilarious.
But yeah, I think that's if the board agrees, then maybe we can do that and
Great.
figure out a way to get people out.
Good idea.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. It is advertisement and people are busy. And that district in particular, we have the most kids in that district. And this week alone, there's something Monday through Thursday. So I think you're dividing everyone's attention.
Yeah.
Ms. Smith brought cookies last time too. So
Oh, good. Van, did you have, I've lost track. Did the fire levy board meet?
No, we will meet this month where we're gonna go over, there was a little bit of back and forth, because we, helped Company 5 buy a generator out of the contingency fund, and so I'm sure we'll talk about that, but basically we're gonna go over the fire levy procedures. We'll talk about this stuff there.
May 21.
May 21st. So
Okay,
we'll see.
thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Great. Do you just want to pull up the cash graph right now, just to show where we stand, since we are approaching, we'll call it the jewel date of June 30th, when we're all looking under the sofa cushions.
So the accountants in the world put a lot of attention on June 30th and cash is not the same thing as fund balance, just to be clear. But what your fund balance is on June 30th at the close of your fiscal year. So that's important for policies and things like that, but as we've discussed a number of times, there are more relevant dates in the year for us, and that's usually the period that's been the longest since the taxes were due for personal property and real estate. And that's why we have this one big climb. That's when taxes are due for real estate and personal property. So just before those taxes start rolling in is when you typically have your lowest Cash, in the past, there was a deeper dip, but your treasurer and Commissioner of Revenue are working together to finalize books and get bills out earlier and earlier. And some people just can't resist paying a bill when they get it. So they pay it before it's due, which is not till December. And so it's flattened out that curve some.
Okay.
And so as you pointed out, that minimum cash period a year is really important. And you know, that if we didn't have the cash to make payroll or pay REC for electric during those periods, you'd have to borrow it for somebody to make that payment. And we don't ever want to be there. And that's the liquidity number that Ms. Jewell talked about, to make sure if something happened and taxes didn't roll in right, natural disaster, who knows what it is, you are in a position to do what you need to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, thank goodness for folks like Mr. Frazier and Mr. Parrish, and I'm going to use this term lovingly. They're super cheapskates, and we're very, very careful with our county's money. And Mr. Parrish, rightfully so, during public comment said we have no debt, and I think that's an awesome testament to everyone involved, including some of our predecessors and present company. I should speak more precisely going forward. So Gary, when you talk about distinguishing cash from fund balance, am I correct that the difference is really restricted funds, or does it go beyond that?
Well,
because I want to make sure I'm using these terms of art precisely.
So these are actually dollars in the bank on this chart.
Okay.
That's
Cash.
Your kind of budgeted accounted for fund balance might be taking credit for things that we're going to receive, or things that we received before but are being shifted in time for accounting purposes.
But isn't our,
So the fund balance is the difference between assets and liabilities.
okay,
The residual is the fund balance.
okay,
And in the assets are things other than strictly cash.
okay,
And coming out of the liability side are things that aren't true expenditures that are going against the cash.
Like those OPEB things.
okay, so it's a balance sheet question, and then I guess from a GL perspective, we're cash-based, right? We have to be.
We are, through the course of the year, cash-based essentially. For audit purposes, we're accrual.
Oh, you are accrual-based.
Accrual-based, and so that's why every single month when I'm sending you the sales tax.
There's a
I'm saying
variance.
There's that variance.
Yeah.
The first 2 months are accrued back to the prior fiscal year. Because those receipts are for sales that occurred during that prior fiscal year.
Okay, so to be clear, fund balance is basically the spread between assets and liabilities at any given time of the year. General ledger is cash-based, but from an annual auditing perspective, it's accrual-based, and so there's a variance particularly on sales tax revenue and meals and lodging tax revenue because of how they're collected and applied. Is that?
Yeah, so sales tax comes in monthly, but it's delayed by 2 months.
Okay,
So when we get the check in July, it's owing to the past fiscal year.
okay,
Yeah, so to give you an example of the differences, at the end of fiscal '24, the cash balance was $11.4 million. The fund balance was $11.9 million.
okay.
It's not significantly
No,
different,
but
there is a technical difference.
I was gonna say, it's a technical difference that gets you almost to the same place, but, okay, that's super interesting.
And you could look at this kind of low cash period and then carve off the 17% that Bonnie was talking about.
Right.
And you probably will find out that there's about 2.7 million left.
That's what-
You know, and
right.
so you can come at that number any number of ways.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, is it seems like we've got 3 million of, I don't know what you wanna call it, buffer padding.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Anything on lawsuits?
A significant change is that the Supreme Court has accepted both the Williams appeal and the county's appeal, which basically means the Supreme Court wants to hear the whole thing. Tell me the whole story. I don't have any understanding of the dates of that at this point, so that'll be very interesting.
Is Food Lion a grocery store? That is the question.
There you go.
All right, a great Supreme Court legal question. Okay, Gary, do you want to, and/or Bonnie, do you just want to give us any updates that are at the front of your mind on anything on county administration side before we hear from my colleagues?
Bonnie and I are always shocked at the things we do during a half a month as we're preparing.
That's
the
awesome.
report. We hope you take some benefit out of them.
Yeah, you're very active.
Usually, if there are really significant items, we've already told the board about them in a direct email, but it's a good way to document them over time, and we can all go back a couple of years and find out when something was done or whatever. So I'm not going to highlight anything today, but it's all there.
Okay, I think we've got an awesome team up and down Courthouse Row and out in that little farmhouse that you all work in, so thank you. Ms. Comer, do you have anything you want to add before we recess?
Matters presented, yeah.
No. Ms. Smith?
I can't think of anything.
Van? Nope. All right, great. Thanks, everyone, for a productive meeting, and we'll recess until 7 p.m. And just to highlight, we're going to have that joint public hearing with the Planning Commission on contractors' yards tonight, and another public comment period, and then a bit of discussion around the budget, and then courthouse project and land use.
And courthouse is really about just dates and
Yeah,
timing.
so
And so Ms. Donahue, are you sure you know what time it is here and there, and what time 7 o'clock is here?
just Google what time is it in Washington, Virginia.
I'm looking at my world clock on my phone, that's what's keeping me straight.
There you go. I know generally where you are, and I too would wonder what time it was, so.
When you trip over a line in the ocean and the time zone changes, right?
Great. Thanks, Debbie, for your earnestness in joining today.
Absolutely.
Thanks. All right,
Thank you.
see you at 7, everyone. Thanks, Art. See you in a minute. You're looking good.